time. Tuesday. Let's go. Okay, let's introduce before I do any odds or anything like that. Give us an example of one of the trends, Matt, that we're going to be looking at. So the first race, the first Grade 1, the Supreme Novices Hurdle. What should we be looking for?
So the trend is that winners of the Brave Inca Novice Hurdle, now over 2 miles at the Dublin Racing Festival, 6 from 9 in the Supreme this century, 153% profit. And that's often the strongest novice hurdle run anywhere before the festival. That predates the current strength of the Irish trained horses. I think the reasons are that the Irish system funnels the best horses into a valuable Grade 1 at the right time, early February. The Irish trainers are long been more inclined to take each other on in a race like this rather than look to win a softer race. That combination provides novices with meaningful experience, such a big plus in the Supreme. And given how much stronger the Irish stables are at the moment, there's every reason to believe that trend can build, and it's a positive for Elete Tante.
Okay, so but don't you have to trust the form of the race itself then? You have to trust that Elete Tante was the best horse in the race, right? And I guess you do that, or do you just want to always back the winner year on year for the Supreme?
Oh no, not at all. I wouldn't be following it in blind, but I do trust the form. Facile Vega and High Definition probably went a bit quicker than ideal, but Elete Tante was never more than about 7 lengths behind. It's ludicrous to suggest Facile Vega's falling in a hole can be explained simply by that early gallop. So, yes, they probably went a little bit too quickly. If it had been eaten 2-3 lengths, it might have been an excuse. My view is that the ground is a big problem for him. He needs lots of cut, so Deasy's going to come on to. And so, anti-post, I couldn't have him, because if there's a sound surface, it'll probably be a layer for a place on the day for me.
Okay. Facile Vega, you can see 4.2, Marine Nationale 5.5, Elete Tante 6.8, High Definition 14.0, Tamuras and Diverge 15.5. There's Chasing Fire 22.0, the first of the Ollie Murphy runners. I probably will give him a go on the day, to be honest, in the same colours as Thomas Darby, who finished second a few years ago. And Strong Leader is a little bit bigger than that, I believe. I know that Deasy's going to come on to that horse. I want to come to Adele next, just to sort of flesh out the case for Elete Tante, if I can.
Well, I mean, I'm not really buying into the fact that Facile Vega went off. He did go quick. High Definition was kind of pressing him the whole time. But I was thinking, if you can't cope with that pace, you're certainly not going to cope with it at Cheltenham in a race like the Supreme. So I kind of like, I'm not buying into it, to be honest with you, that much. His times, even when he's won for Facile Vega, have been quite slow. So I think either way, I think he'd still struggle with the pace there. So I think the actual right horse won. This horse has taken his time to mature. He's a horse that he was keen himself throughout the race. He wears a hood. But I think this horse is really just starting to learn to race properly now. And I actually think he was better with the stronger pace being set that day. So I still think the right horse won that day. I think the pace at Cheltenham will really suit him. I think he jumped better, kind of going on that forward foot pace. And I'm not buying into Facile Vega. He looked a bit over the top to me for Facile Vega that day. He felt like he looked like he was set alight and then just completely bombed out. Didn't find anything. But considering High Definition fell halfway through the race, he went to put the handbrake on Paul Townend, and he kind of then had the race in his hands, but he still couldn't finish it off. So I can't have Facile Vega for me. I think Elete Tante is the one. I think he was the best horse that won that day.
Okay, lots of comments. Nobody likes Facile Vega. There's a hole in Facile Vega. Lay Facile Vega all day. Elete Tante for Peter's punts. Facile Vega too buzzy. Do the panel agree? High knee action, maybe a place lay. I mean, ultimately, he's won on good to yielding. For all he's got a high knee action, we know that day one is never very quick ground. And Deasy, you can just put a line through last time, right? He wasn't even ridden when he was beat, and he finished lame.
Yeah. I could make a case for a few horses in this. I just said I'd go with Facile Vega for numerous reasons. And the first one is that the ground has to be one of the most important things that you look at when you're looking at a race like this. And for a long time, it looked like there's been no rain in England for the last 5 months nearly, but the weather is turning now. That it seems to be that there's a bad forecast coming in. And if the ground is heavy, and I think he needs it heavy, because remember last year he went through almost unraceable ground to win the bumper very easily. If it comes up heavy, I think he has to be a bet, especially at the price he is now. If you watched the race last day, like, he went off too fast, everyone knows that, and Paul Tolan didn't give him the best ride. But as soon as he let Thompson gone past him, he stopped riding him. He just left him go. He didn't ride him out. He let Tom won because In the Pocket ran up the arse of, I think it was Irish Point that had to come out. In the Pocket needs further, and I think it was Dark Ray and there's the other horse. So he's nowhere near the standard. So he won by a good distance, but I don't think he actually bait much once Facile Vega was out of the race. If he turns up and it's heavy ground, like, as well as that, if he had no chance and if he was gone, he'd be three times the price he is now. They're very good to lay the horses in William Mullins' yard when they know they're wrong. He hasn't drifted that much. He's actually come back in a small bit since that Dublin Racing Festival. So I wouldn't say no, but if the weather goes bad and the ground is going to be heavy, they'll have to put a bit of water on it already. It's well worth reading Matt's article on the watering as he put up recently. But if it's heavy, I would give him a great chance of bouncing back. And
Matt, surely there's more chance of my 9-day-old going through the night tonight than there is of it being heavy ground on day one of the Cheltenham Festival. And also, can you respond to Tom Leach's comment, Matt?
Well, both of them. You've got to remember that for the last 5 years, we've started on either soft 3 times and heavy once. The high water table now means if that rain and snow does come in, it could easily be really testing.
The last time, sorry, Matt. The last time there was a weather system like this, the Beast from the East, it was called, right? It was 2018, and that was the year that Somerville Boy won the Supreme in bottomless ground. It was very heavy that year. We're getting the same kind of weather this year. There was snow and sleet and everything for the weeks before it. So Irish people know loads about the weather. We have loads of weather. You know, we've been looking up at the sky now a lot recently. So
it's Micheál fish. Go on.
Yeah, if the weather turns, it throws everything. All farm study goes into the bin. You have to start looking at heavy ground horses, and he is a heavy ground horse, and he would have been, if he'd won the last day, he'd probably be 1-3. You know, if with heavy ground, I still think at the price he is, if the ground is heavy, he's definitely a bet.
Matt, very quickly then, how many Supreme winners lost last time out? Do you have that to hand?
3 this century, the old Rogue LeBake, and then both Menorah and Arcalis got stuck in the mud the previous time.
Okay, thank you. Donn?
Yeah, I'm against Facile Vega, and I'm kind of in a minority on this side of the Irish Sea, but it seems like I'm in a majority here. I don't think they pushed him out enough after his defeat at Leopardstown. I think that there wasn't, like, watching the race live and directly after, he thought he went too fast, but as Matt said, Elateton wasn't too far behind him, and it was nearly reassuring to find out that there was a problem afterwards, that he was lame afterwards. So I think it's not the ideal preparation. I thought they should have gone a bigger price about him after that defeat, because it is hard. And then suddenly when like going into the race, as Micheál was saying there, like, he was flawless. His breeding, he's obviously Cavega's son. He was unbeaten under all codes. So going into the race, he was a 49 shot, and he was a 49 shot based on what he'd done before, plus his reputation, plus his breeding. Then he's beaten, and then suddenly you see the flaws. But I'm kind of surprised that he's still favoured. I think he might not be favoured on the day. I take the lad's point on Elateton for sure, and he's a second season novice as well. He was keen and free last year. He made his debut, I think, at the Dublin Racing Festival last season for Willie Mullins. But I like Marine Nationale. I think he's a little bit of a forgotten horse among people, if not quite by the market. And I know, I'm sure Matt has a stat about horses who haven't run this in the calendar year winning a Supreme. I'm sure they're in a minority, but it was always the plan to miss it. He was busy all the way through the summer. I thought his run in the Royal Bond was a very good run. Things didn't go right for him. He got shuffled back at a crucial point in the race, and he made his ground very easily back up, and he battled on well to beat Irish Point, and that was after missing the last. And that race has been working out pretty well. Cham Kiley, who was 4th, won the Laurels Hotel race. Next time, Astro Diamond, who was 3rd, she won the Solarina Hurdle Grade 3 race, I think it is. So he's been left off since then to bring him there fresh. His jumping is good. Michael O'Sullivan, while he can't claim his £5 in a Grade 1 race, he's a very, very good rider, and he does have a Cheltenham winner on the board. For all that, he lacks the depth of experience with the Cheltenham Festival. I just think he's just a very, very cool rider, and I'm sure that Marine National won't lack from the saddle. And Barry Connell has had his horses in tremendous form all season. So yeah, and he's always said that he holds this horse. And like, I think he said that he's the best horse he's ever had, as in ever owned. So that's a very high commendation. No, I think Marine National has lots in his favour.
Matt, flesh out the any concern potentially for not having run for a while or lack of experience.
Wouldn't be too worried about that. Alcy, I don't think he'll run since Christmas. Captain Seaby had been off since the autumn. So it's been deliberate. That's the point. I think Barry Connell said he won the Royal Bond despite the ground, wanted to keep him away from the winter ground, and he goes well fresh. So if the ground is decent on the day, I think he's got a good solid chance, yeah.
Tom Leach says Marine National is my pick. Hopefully a bigger price on the day once the Mullins fanboys start punting. And Ranjiv says Tamuras if soft, ? Charlie.
Yeah, I mean, I'm keen on Tamuras. I think this is a race that has quite an open look to it. I think quite a lot of horses bring in a sort of similar level of form to the table. And I just think Tamuras is a bit of a forgotten horse. Paul Nicholls has taken this race out before with Alpha Off and Nolan, horses that have ultimately ended up staying further. And I think the fact that he will go a bit further, Tamuras, has got to be in his favour. And I think he's a strong enough traveller that he'll be able to lay up early. Just going back to what someone said about Facile Vega with the being buzzy, and I wouldn't worry too much about that. He's by walk in the park, and most of his offspring tend to be a bit hot, so that wouldn't be a negative for me. But I think, like with Marine National, Elete Tom, Facile Vega to a degree, they do sort of bring a similar level, and I think Tamuras fits into that slot as well. He's very progressive. Paul's been very bullish about him. He's been off since the Tolworth. Obviously, Constitution Hill did the double of that last year, and yeah, I think he's overpriced. I really do think he's overpriced at 11.0.
Okay, and as I said, I think Ollie Murphy's supposed first string genuinely, not just because he's a Matchbook ambassador, is a little overpriced. And I said the same about Thomas Darby a few years ago when he finished second. And I know that you, Deasy, will probably have a go at Strong Leader. Why?
I've had a go at Strong Leader already. I just really like. I mean, we actually saw him in the yard as one of the first horses we saw over there, and they're all like. Adrian Hesketh was on him. He said, "This is a proper horse." He was unlucky to be beaten by Encanto Bruno at Cheltenham in a season debut in a bumper, but I liked, like, he seems to have press button speed. Press the button, he's gone. He can go up through the gears. He's always raced left-handed this year. Chasing Fire has always gone right-handed. I don't know, is that something to do with him? But I just prefer Strong Leader of the two of them, and not because Ollie is our ambassador. I will genuinely be having an each way betting them or win place betting them and backing them for 4 places and 5 places if I can today, because I can see him definitely outrunning his odds.
All right, we're done. That's the Supreme, done and dusted. The Arkle we move on to. So, Charlie, I'm going to come to you first of all here, and I'll have a ping at the prices as well. So 2.78 Jumbon. El Fabiolo 2.82. That's interesting because not everywhere will you have John Bonner's favourite. With Team Matchbook 2.78 John Bon, El Fabiolo 2.82, Dice Heart Dynamo 6.4, Saint Roi is 12.0. Tom Leach, I've seen that comment, and I'm not going to read it out, but I will actually going to dig out Ollie Murphy's record at Huntingdon and see what you think of that. Right, Charlie, Dice Heart Dynamo. Go away from the top 2. What are you doing?
Probably madness, because I've massive respect for the top 2, but I don't know. I have a sneaking suspicion about Dice Heart Dynamo. I think he's an absolute ball of speed. I think the old course at Cheltenham is sort of made for him. I mean, he was still tanking along in the Supreme when he tipped up last year. I think ultimately he just got outstayed at Leopardstown last time out behind El Fabiolo. He led them a long way, jumped soundly, high cruising gear. Look, it's probably going to be difficult to insert the top 2 in the market, but I found it difficult to split them, and so then I was looking at something beyond them. And if Dice Heart Dynamo gets into a rhythm out on the front end, I think this, it's a sharp 2 mile on this old track, and I think that'll suit him ideally. And like I say, if he'll make them all rock and roll, even if he doesn't hang on, I wouldn't be surprised if he leads them down to the last, you know.
And I know that Matt had positive comments about Dice Dynamo earlier on in the year, but he's ditched him. Anyway, we'll come to that. Deasy, you're the leading British hope is John Bonn, and he wins. Why?
I think John Bonn is an unbelievable jumper and an unbelievable athlete, and he's been brought along nicely this year. I had him picked even before Fabiola won at the Dublin Racing Festival. I just think as an athlete, he is top notch. I think he was unlucky last year. He came up against a freak. I know that Fabiola ran him very close to the entry, but I just think that he has been the most eye-catching visually of them this year, and I'm out of a pick. I'm happy enough to stick with him.
Ollie Murphy has a 22% strike rate at Huntington. I was all out to say that's better than Paul Nichols's, but he's got a 24% strike rate, so that's a bit annoying. But there you are. It's not bad though, 22%. There you go. It's not.
22 winners out of 102 runners.
Yeah. We sound like Ollie Murphy fanboys. I mean, the fact is, he is a Matchbook ambassador, and aside from each other, we do fancy his horses in the Supreme. I wouldn't touch his horse, Thunder Rock, over fences. So there you go. Don't jump well enough. No chance. I don't even know where I'm going next. That happened early. Second race. Adele, another John Bonn fan.
Yeah, absolutely. What Deasy said. Absolutely love this horse. So, he's so athletic. I could watch him all day long, honestly. Even at Warwick, it's such a sharp track, and he just never even I know he had a little bit of a scruffy jump, and Calico managed to kind of swoop by him, but other than that, he is. I love the way he gallops, and he's so well balanced that even when he changes his leg, he doesn't even alter momentum. He doesn't change his stride pattern or anything. He's just so well balanced, so athletic, so sharp-minded as well, and I really like that about him. I just love him, and I just think he's been from last season when he was kind of a bit of a kind of hyperactive shell of a horse. What I've seen recently of Nicky Henderson when he's been showing him off without his rugs on, I'm like, wow, he's actually filled out into such a big burly horse. The fact that he's even so athletic is fascinating, because he looks like he's put on so much weight. Which is really nice to see. I think he's really growing up, and I just think last season he just found everything so easy over hurdles. I think Chasing has really kind of made a man of him, but he still really enjoys it from what I can see. And yeah, I absolutely love him. I really do. I think he's a wonderful horse.
Okay, and now to Team El Fabiolo. Matt, there's nothing between these horses on ratings, is that right?
Well, El Fabiolo is 159 in Ireland, so in that sense, yeah, the Irish horse has got about £3 extra in the handicap chases today. So I'd expect him to be in the early mid 160s when the ratings come through.
Okay, what's the stat? Who do you like?
The stat is about ratings, actually. Since the BHA published them in 2008, the top rated runners are 9 from 15, 78% profit. So why is such an obvious factor so underbet? Because 2 mile chasing is the most predictable division. The advent of the Turner, the novice chase don't have so much depth now. Smaller fields, less luck in running. So the best 2 milers winning a lot of the time. And El Fabiolo will probably be about £3 or £4 clear top rated. I think he's got a great chance of enhancing that record. His form in the Irish Arkle is, on bare form, a fair way ahead of anything John Bonn's achieved so far. For all that, John Bonn does look a cracking prospect.
Does he jump well enough?
El Fabiolo, he's given a belt each time in both of his runs. He's got 13 fences to jump here in 284 yards less. They are less stiff fences. But when he made that bad mistake at the 4th last of the Irish Arkle, he never looked like falling, didn't knock the stuffing out of him at all. He just picked himself up and powered clear of them. I just think he's improved so much this season. He'd only had 1 run for Willie when he took on John Bonn in the top novices. And I think he could be the sort of horse who not only wins the Arkle, wins a couple of champion chases over the next couple of years.
Okay. Physically, Donn, he looked like the horse that would improve for a fence compared to John Bonn overall. I don't know how impressed you've been with the latter as well.
Yeah, look, it's a good race between the, like, it's great that they're taking each other on. Like the Irish Arkle, all we were missing was John Donn from that race. As Matt was saying, it was a hell of a race. It had lots of depth to it. They went a hell of a pace. Tyler Dynamo set that pace, as he always does, and I'm sure he's going to do the same in the Arkle. Al Fabiolo, that was only his second run over fence. But when he won at Fairy House, so, like, just to expand on what Matt was saying, he made a mistake. I think the second last fence going down to Ballyhack, and then he jumped the next one really well. He made a mistake at the second last, and then he jumped the last well. And then when he made that mistake at the fourth last at Leopardstown, he jumped the third last well. So it doesn't seem to phase him. And it didn't seem to lose much momentum actually at Leopardstown. So look, ideally you won't be making a mistake like that in the Arkle, because it's going to be going fast. It's a furlong shorter than the Irish is. So he's going to have to probably eradicate those mistakes from his game. But it was only a second chase. And on hurdles, like, I know John beat him at Aintree in the top novices hurdle, but he made a really bad mistake at last fence, or the last flight that day. It was only his second run over hurdles as well for Willie. So I just think he can come forward from that. And if he can just eradicate those mistakes from his armory, yeah, I agree, Matt, he could go on to be very, very good. Look, John Bond, he's got everything about his run. You know, that we're going to see a different horse at Cheltenham. So I think it's going to be a hell of a race between the two of them, with Dynamo setting the pace and San Rot maybe looking to pick up maybe a place in behind. But no, I think Al Fabiolo, I think he's the most likely winner.
If you do fancy him, well worth taking the Matchbook price, because in places with other bookmakers, he's right at the top of the tree. Move on to the Champion Hurdle, which we're not really going to spend too much time on because we're out for bets. And as far as trend goes as well, there's no official trend here, because when you've got a horse like Constitution Hill, it sort of goes out the window because he's so far clear of them. Or is he? 1.43 he is. State Man 5.8. I like to move it 24.0. Vauban 26.0. Epatant's 70.0. If she's Deasy, have you got her? Are you going to back her for this? And is she absolutely guaranteed to line up in this?
Well, she's not entering the mares, and they have to supplement her. So, is he going to do that? I mean, she has a great chance of hitting third at least here, possibly second. If
it was a cock up, wasn't it? It was accidental that he entered the mares.
He said that he's going to cover the cost of supplementing it, didn't he?
I don't know. I didn't hear that. I was just saying, if she turned up in this, I would back her to place, and maybe even a small bet in the without market, because you go down beyond them, and the rest of them, there's not a whole pile of depth here like she'd have the likes of Vauban, or I like to move it to beat. But like Constitution Hill at 1.43, sure, you could have everything on that. He'll definitely win. But
I love the idea of Nikki being like, "Don't worry, JP, I've got this.
Yeah.
I'll fork out for this." I know that everyone's put Constitution Hill, so but I don't know whether anyone is backing at 1.43. A few things to throw out there, though, Don. Can we use on a sort of form line through Honeysuckle? Can we use that form to suggest that is the right price for Constitution? How do we possibly know he's that much better than State Man, who's looked unbeatable this year and last?
Yeah, we don't. It's just all he's been doing. Like, I actually thought at the start of the season that he might be vulnerable in the fighting fifth hurdle, but he's just got everything, hasn't he? Like, he's got class, pace, settles, put him anywhere in a race, jumps, doesn't matter. Nothing phases him. And look, he's obviously one of the most exciting horses in training, if not the most exciting horse in training. So yeah, look, State Man is a very good horse. State Man's probably unlucky that he's around in this era now, because he won the County Hurdle, he won the Morgiana, and then he won the Leopardstown race, the last day of the Irish Champion Hurdle, when I thought Paul Townend was very good on him. He dictated a pace in front to suit him, and then he quickened off it. His jumping was very good that day. I think his jumping is improving as he's going along, especially it was way better the last day than it was in the Morgiana Hurdle. So he's a worthy opponent, and it's good that a worthy opponent has emerged. I thought Vauban might step forward a wee bit more from the Morgiana Hurdle than he did the last day. And again, from the Leopardstown race, from the Matheson race at Leopardstown over Christmas, because he seemed to be quite weak in the market, and Willie Mullins seemed to be pleasantly surprised at how well he ran, how close he got to State Man, but then he didn't get any closer in the Irish Champion Hurdle. So, and look, it's hard, as we know, for 5-year-olds. He was the best juvenile last year, but maybe the juveniles weren't as good as last year as we thought they were at the time or at the end of the season. So Vauban is you can see him running well, but no, like the State Man looks to be the main danger to Constitution Hill. But if Constitution Hill does what Constitution Hill has been doing, then yeah, look, it's going to be good to see him racing again.
The line through Honeysuckle is the form that she has ahead of Epatante, who of course has finished in behind Constitution Hill. I'm just wondering, Deasy, whether beating Epatante as he has twice this season means he deserves to be 1.43 for a champion hurdle.
He does. He looks like an absolute super horse. Like he can, if he doesn't get pace, he'll go off and make his own running. He could sit in behind. How does Paul Townend go around beating him? Like, is he going to try and get away from him? I can't see him being beat. State Man might win the champion hurdle next year if Constitution Hill goes chasing. Why not?
Matt Peter says, is course form significantly more important at Cheltenham in comparison when reviewing races at other race courses? And you can also branch out to festival form if you can.
Is that specifically for the champion hurdle or more generally?
Up to you.
Right. I don't think it's more important more generally, but in the festival races, I think festival form is particularly important because you get fast run races where the horses are at their peak, and therefore that sort of form is generally more reliable. So that'd be the key point I'd take out of it.
Okay. I really want somebody, Charlie, and the last person I'll come to on this, I really want somebody to say that the horse is too short, but you don't think he is.
No, I don't think he is. I think I put State Man up as a lay because I just don't think this horse can be beat. I mean, and I actually think 4.0 is probably short enough for State Man when you're talking about him taking on a horse like this. I think he's got no holes in him, as in I think it was Dee said, I don't really know what Paul Townend does to try and get the horse beat, because I think whatever scenario plays out, he's just going to be way too good.
They said this about Baid in the Champion Stakes, Matt, which is a bumper they run at Ascot back in the last season.
Oh, yeah. I spent hours looking at that form and just couldn't find a way you could get beaten.
They're Matt's summer bumpers, as he refers to them. Right, I'm done with that. Board of the Champion Hurdle. The Mayor's Hurdle. Adele, I'll come to you first. Give you the prices. Of course, we're not absolutely certain what's going to line up. Honeysuckle 3.75, Epatante 5.7, Brandy Love is 6.8, Echoes in Rain is 9.0, Marie's Rock are possible for the stayers, and we might have an angle in on there, 9.2, Love Envoy or Love Envoi 11.5, 17.5, and bigger the rest. So Del Mulrennan, take it away.
Oh, we're not quite sure where Marie's Rock's going. I mean, ideally, from an owner's point of view, we'd like to think she'd go back for the mares and win the race that she won last year. But what I kind of gathered from the bit of work that happened at Kempton yesterday when Epatante worked was Henderson's initial reactions where he was going to keep them separate, and Epatante was going to go for the mares and Marie's Rock was going to go for the stayers. So either way, I'm going to go with the Henderson horse. So Epatante, if she goes, you know what you're getting with her. She's ultra professional. I mean, she literally looks as good as ever this season. Her only defeats at the hands of Constitution Hill, who is an absolute monster. Like, he's broke 2 track records, one in the Supreme and then at Newcastle in fighting 5th. So, like, you can forgive her for that. Nice to see her get her confidence back at Doncaster. And if Marie's Rock lines up, again, I just, we know what she can do. I do think she does look better over a bit further. So ideally, I was thinking she might go for the stays, and that does look like a bit more of an open contest. Obviously, if they both line up, then I'll go for Epatante. Sorry,
Thanks.
Ralph.
Yeah, sorry, Ralph. And they may well both line up, but whether Henderson wants that, we'll see. Anybody else in that camp? Charlie, you are, aren't you, with Epatante?
Yeah, I think reading between the lines, this is where she will end up, and yeah, very much so. For all the reasons Adele said, really. She was very good on the last start, and there's no disgrace in chasing home Constitution Hill twice this year. She's solid festival form, former champion hurdle winner, and this is a corking race though in its own right. As in for anyone that's an advocate of these mares races being at the festival, this is a strong case in point of why they should be there. It's a really good race, and I respect Honeysuckle, Brandy Love, and a few of the others. But if Epatante turns up, I'd be very much firmly with her.
Yeah, not just that, but you could argue that ultimately the champion hurdle is better for there being a mares program, because mares have won so many of the last few renewals. Okay, Donn, is your selection heart or head?
It's a no bet for me, but a lot of heart, I'd say, Tom. Yeah, but this could be a hell of a race if Epatante runs, if Marie's Rock runs, which you kind of imagine that Marie's Rock the last couple of days, or yesterday, it looked like she was going for the stairs, and they had mentioned the stairs before. Brandy Love, Echoes and Rain, Love and What, Queensbrook, even like Queensbrook beat Anna Benigna and Brandy Love the last day. She's got Cheltenham Festival form. She finished third in a champion bumper. She finished second in the Mares' Hurdle last year. Only just gave best to Marie's Rock close home. She traded at odds on in running, and she was good the last day. So she's interesting at a bigger price. But I know Honeysuckle, you just love to see her going and winning it. It's you just love to see her going, and she's rated to win it if she arrives there in the form that she was in last year, or even close to it. She's going to take all the beating, and I suppose it's a lot of heart, Tom. But I think head as well. I think she's the right favourite for the race.
Matt, I'll come to you, and you can answer Helen's question. She says, with ex-champ hurdlers in this, do the trends struggle?
I think that's a really good question, Helen. I don't think that there are many trends for this race generally, and it's partly to do with exactly that. When this first started, Quivega was running around against vastly inferior horses, very predictable. Now it's got a much deeper race. So, not something I'd be looking at trends for at all here.
Who are you with?
Well, I've got a strategy here, and I've got a question for the guys. What price do we think Honeysuckle goes off if all the major players line up here? Anyone want to make a guess?
Well, she goes off. She goes off.
3.5.
5-2 favourite.
4.0.
Oh shit!
And so, what is she now on the Matchbook Exchange?
That's a good question. I've just read it out. What is she, producer Dan? We've had Shane says 4.0, 3.0 Peter's Punts, 5.2 Alex, 4.0 Helen. A few more coming in. I'm not sure what I've just read out what she is currently, and I haven't got it up in front of me now. But
right. So the point of my question was, a lot of people are saying that she'll go off roughly the same sort of price. Some a bit shorter. Some say she'll drift, probably depending on their own view of her chances. I think there's going to be an absolute wall of money for her post-declaration. There'll be a huge amount of sentimentality going on here. When you've got a high-profile horse like this, the trainers are almost obliged at this stage of their career to say they're working the houses down at home. And so what I think will happen is in the last 2 or 3 days, she'll shorten up a lot. So I'm going for a back-to-lay strategy. Back her now, lay her there on the day, get your stake money, and then look at what's in the race, because the two I'm most interested in, Marie's Rock and Echoes in Rain, aren't certain runners. So I'll have a look at it again, hopefully with that stake money at that stage.
Okay, so she's 3.75 now. We know where she's running. And let's say they all don't turn up, then she's definitely going to be shorter. So
I honestly think if most, Marie's Rock and Epatante, I think one of those will run. But even if the rest of them turn up, I think she'll go off about 2.5, 2.7.
Which is, well, that's Alex's quote on what he thinks she'll go off. Interesting. All right. And who haven't we come to? Deasy, you're looking a bit further away.
Yeah, I'm putting up my second potential non-runner in a row. I thought She Wears It Well is a very big price. I don't know what she favoured for this at one stage last year, or was it the Mayor's Novice? But she's always been kind of highly touted, and I think it just took her a while to get the hang of it. And this year, no, she is qualified for the Pretemps. She ran her first one, she ran in a Pretemps qualifier, won it fairly well, and she beat Queensbrook then over Christmas in receipt of a few pounds. But she's going to be nearly top weight in the per temps. There's decent prize money in this, and as we said, no, I just think she's vastly overpriced. I think she's 18.0, so I definitely have a little win place betting her in this, because William Mullins mares can produce shocks, and it's a pick 'em between the top three. I hope Marie's Rock goes for this, but as I said, if it's heavy ground on the first day, that'll probably go against her. But yeah, I'm gonna go for just probably a bigger price one at the moment. She wears it well.
27.0. She wears it well. I think Peter's Punts agrees with you. That's our grade 1 action done. We're going to come to any other bets. I don't want long explanations at all, and I'll just go in order for me here. So, Matt, first of all, your other bet for Tuesday.
Churchstone Warrior in the not quite 4 miler. That used to be a race for a lot of experience. We only have half a dozen of them hacking round now, so that's less of a trend as Statler showed against Run Wild Fred last year. I think he's a big price.
Having won the 10 up last time. Donn.
Oscar Elite in the Ultimate finished 3rd in the race last year behind Korak Rambler. It's a race that does foster horses who run well before, go and run well in it again. He was very good in winning the Reynolds-Town last time, beat a horse rated 145. He's off a mark of 139 now, only £1 higher than he was last year when he was £4 out of the handicap. And he's a spring horse as well. He goes well at this time of year, and he goes well at Cheltenham.
We love a bet in the Ultima. Adele.
I'm going in the Ultima as well. I'm going for a horse called Inter Overdrive. North have won this the last 2 years. Hopefully it's going to be a 3rd time as well. His only defeat this season has come at the hands of La Homme Press, so he's done very, very little wrong. Hopefully he's a big enough price that you can back him in the place market, but I would be having a small win and a place bet on him.
Notably, it's the race as well that the Irish, about the only handicap they got a shit record in. Deasy.
The North are going to win it 3 years in a row. Adele, it's going to be Corach Rambler. Corach Rambler is going to piss up in this again. He's only 6 pounds higher than he was last year. He's had a nice, easy prep this year. He'll win this and he'll go very close in the Grand National as well.
Matt, what is the trend's minimum getting into the Ultima, if you've got it there? If you don't, I'll move on and come back to you.
All 4 handicap chases now, the last couple of years, there have been only the maximum of 1 horse eliminated in any of those renewals. So basically, if you want to run, you can get it.
Fine. Simple as that. Charlie, where are you looking?
National Hunt Chase, Marlon Mission for John McConnell. I think they put Barry O'Neill. I think solid jumper. I think he'll relish the extra step up in trip.
Okay, best lays now. Just the name of the horse is all we need. No explanation required. Please. Matt, your best lay?
John Bond.
Donn, have you got one?
No, probably John Donn at the price as well against El Fabiolo, yeah.
Okay. Adele, your best lay?
I can't remember if I put El Fabiolo or did I put? I'm going to say, did I put Facile Vega? I'll lay both of them anyway. Yeah, so I've got 2 now.
Yeah, in your face, Willie Mullins. And speaking of that, Charlie.
Yeah, I put up State Man, the champion hurdle, but also John Bond as well.
Okay, DC.
Goyard de Menil in the National Hunt Chase.
Okay. And I'm joining in on the best lays and best bets. And my first lay is Constitution Hill at the prices. I think he's too short.
Oh, no.
State Man. And Inspiral got beaten at Foul Mistakes.
Yeah. I knew you were going to bring that up.
There you go. I think he's too short. I don't care. I genuinely think he's too short against State Man, who I really respect. I'm sure he'll win, but I think he's too short. Simple as that. Best bets. My best bet is Facile Vega on day 1. Matt?
El Fabiolo.
Donn?
Marine Nationale in the Supreme Novice Hurdle.
I love this Matt Adele head to head. Adele, your best bet?
Yeah, I've gone John Bond in the Arkle.
Good. Charlie, your best bet?
Epatante if she runs in the Mares Hurdle.
And DC?
Corach Rambler in the Ultimate.